I simply believe the truth, which is that if you attempt mass deportation, it is logistically impossible without building concentration camps. I think that that is something that goes against the ethics and the soul of our great nation. I think any attempt to deport people on a mass scale is just simply not able to be done in a humanitarian way, in a way that respects the dignity that all humans deserve.
Oh, no, please keep going. Are you good?
Alright.
All right, Cam, take it away.
What is a concentration camp?
I mean, if you... What are you trying to do, man? Like,
No, just tell me.
Like,
Just give me.
You
just
know
give
what
me,
a concentration
no,
camp is.
just
It's
tell
when
me.
you-
I need to know what you're talking about. What is a concentration?
I'm saying if you are trying to deport 20 million people, you're gonna have to put them in a concentrated area so that you can deport them.
A concentrated area is a village. A concentrated area is a city. A concentration.
In this
area
current
is a
administration, it would
jail.
most likely look like a prison, yes.
Okay, so is a prison a concentration camp?
If it is involving the concentration of specific ethnic groups, yes.
Okay, even if those ethnic groups have committed crimes
I mean, what are you
and
talking
been
about?
found
You're just
they've been
asking,
found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt for a violent crime, and now they're in prison. Just because there's ethnic diversity in prison, that makes it a concentration camp? Or are we abolishing prisons? What are we doing here? Because it seems like it doesn't really matter. It seems it's not a logistical nightmare. We already do it. Every administration.
So you're saying we should be placing, we should have camps of 20,000 plus.
We should have
illegal immigrants.
detainment facilities. Yes, which every
How does-
administration.
how is-
Obama did the same thing.
Who's defending? I'm not saying that Obama was right in
It's
building
not new.
concentration.
You said it'd be a logistic nightmare, but we've
It is
done
a
it.
logistical
We've done
nightmare.
it for
You're
decades.
saying you want to deport 20 million people. How are
Yes.
you going to do that humanely?
By putting people in detention facilities and sending their children to HHS shelters.
Detention facilities. I think we did that before. During World War II.
We do it every day.
When we took away the property of Japanese American citizens illegally.
Yeah, but we're not doing it based on their race or their nationality. We're doing it based on their violation of U.S. Code, Federal Code 8 U.S. Code 1325, improper entry by alien. They violated the law. They go to a detainment facility
So
because
the
they violated the
sun's
law.
in my
They get
eye a bit
deported.
here. Could we get a little bit more shade?
Yeah, they go to jail. Or they get killed.
Okay, we're not
What
Nazis.
is a Nazi?
You.
What, define it. What is it? You can't define it. Why would you call somebody something if you don't know what it is?
Fascism.
What is fascism? Do it! She said she's gonna kill me for having a different opinion. That's fascism.
You guys, this reaction from these college students is due to a lack of education outside of their bubble, and social media feeds being curated by algorithms does not help. This is one of the primary reasons why I started this channel, to challenge the narrative and get people to think critically about the important issues today. In my own search for truth, I found something tackling the problems I talk about every day. Ground News, a small independent team I've partnered up with. Their app and website gather perspectives from across the political spectrum in one place. Just swipe through every headline covering a story with context on each outlet's political bias and whether the narrative is being shaped by corporations or independent voices. This way, you know who's benefiting from the way a story is being framed or whether it's being reported on at all. You can go to ground.news/Klug to follow along while I show you guys how it works. For example, check this out. The DEA arrested nearly 50 members or associates of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua in a Colorado raid the other month. TDA has expanded its operations across 17 U.S. states, and these raids have become a top priority for the Trump administration. You can see right here, Ground News has dozens of stories covering this. You can see left-wing news is barely talking about it, and if you use their bias comparison, you can actually see the difference in reporting on this story. Look, it's undeniable that Trump's presidency has affected the media landscape, and it's important to be ready to uncover facts that the mainstream media might try to bury. For a limited time, you guys can get the same plan I use for nearly half the cost. Just go to ground.news/Klug or scan the QR code to get 40% off their unlimited access Vantage plan. Or gift this to somebody that you know who needs it. Remember, supporting Ground News doesn't just support the work my team and I are doing, you're also taking back control of how you stay informed. All right, let's get back to this video.
So are you saying that there should be no consequences for coming to the country illegally?
No, that's not.
I'm just clarifying with you because you made a very convenient argument as to why we should never do a mass deportation effort ever.
But we're saying.
So what should it?
There's a difference between the punishment needs to fit the crime. If there are violent criminals that are committing crimes within the United States, I don't understand why the solution is to deport them to home countries that are that
they're
are
citizens of, right?
No, because the difference is if they're committing a crime within the United States, why can't our judicial system handle that? Why is the solution, if they commit a crime, Like, we're just going to send them away from a place they've been living for 2
we
decades?
send them to the country that they're a citizen of because it's not our responsibility to try them. But I mean, what do you think the punishment should be? Should we send them to prison? Because it seems like it's just going to be the same thing, except we continue to pay for them.
Yeah, I think if you're really super in support of these mass deportations, you conceded earlier you can't deport 20 million people in 4 years, and you said
it would be physically impossible. But Democrats knew that when they helped facilitate the worst border crisis in American history over the last 4 years.
Why is the solution?
And they knew that people would be fighting tooth and nail against getting rid of them.
No one's here.
It was very
no one
convenient.
here is arguing for
It was
the
only.
Democrats.
It was
The
only.
Democrats failed.
It was actually only for the
myriad
purpose of
ways to
bringing in
sell.
voters as well.
Please stop. What I was gonna say is, Obama's known for deporting the most amount of people out of every president.
Yeah.
But the way that administration went about it was tactically. You mentioned earlier you would be in support of getting rid of those who have committed violent crimes or even petty
The
theft.
worst first.
Yes. So would you be more in support of tactically arresting people, getting rid of, I'm so sorry, what you say, like the worst first, rather than holding everyone you can find right in that moment, whether or not they've committed any crime or have any criminal record other than crossing into the United States illegally?
So
I just said other than crossing into the United States.
No, I see your point, and I actually think it's a pretty good question, right? When it comes to the worst first, that's the official position of this White House, this administration. It would be a waste of taxpayer dollars because it's incredibly expensive to look for people inside the United States that need to be deported. So they do collect collaterals when they do arrest the worst first. So if there are people, if they're going to an area and there's a convicted rapist that's in the United States that Democrats let in because, hey, that's convenient. Right.
But you don't support
I'm just being cheeky here.
No, but you don't support just rounding people up like
They collect collaterals in the area.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more organized than we think, and it's honestly it's pretty friendly to the taxpayers, so that they're not having to hunt down everybody. There are just people that are in the country illegally. Unfortunately for those people, they get picked up if they're around a criminal.
So
You know.
I do have a question.
So you're
Violent criminal.
So you're guilty by association?
No, you're guilty for committing the crime in the first place.
But you just said I'm confused. If you're saying they're rounded up as collateral, and you're saying, they shouldn't be hanging around people committing crimes, that doesn't.
Well, no.
that's
If you're around an illegal immigrant who's committed a
That's a
crime,
very good argument,
and you're in the area when that person is detained or taken in, right? You are also taken in.
If you're
as
illegal,
collateral.
if you're illegal,
If you're illegal.
I do want to say, you mentioned earlier there's a competition in the job market between documented American citizens and undocumented. I mean, I just want to, at the end of the day, I mean, you mentioned the competition in the job market, and you guys could tell me your position on this, completely open. But I think these undocumented immigrants coming into the U.S. have a lot more in common with the majority of us than these CEOs who hire them illegally instead of hiring actual Americans because they can exploit them. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to say actual Americans. I mean documented citizens.
those CEOs want more illegal immigration. They don't want punishments.
Do you want the
because it'll
exploitation to
stop.
continue?
No, I don't.
Because not deporting
but
them
I also
will
think
cause
I
that.
think this is all just class division. They're going to make the immigrants seem like the problem rather than them who profit off
They
of.
should also be held accountable.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, essentially.
I totally agree, and I think that's very fair. Those people are
Which is not-
criminals,
I'm
in
sorry,
my
it's
view,
not good content,
and they
it's
should be.
just-
You
I
keep
think-
saying that. We're here to have
Okay.
conversations. The good conversation is content. But no, I see what you're saying there. And yes, those are really bad people that are advocating for more and more and more because it keeps wages low. And also, the issue with a lot of those people, they come here, they work illegally, and they work in really bad working conditions because if they complain, they get deported. Now those people are anti mass deportations. They're anti cracking down on immigration at the border because it brings in plenty more people so they can keep their wages down, profits high.
And
So we're on the other side of that argument.
Yeah, I think there's a whole culture war thing going on where we're villainizing the immigrants rather than these people who I think are the real problem. They're exploiting everyone.
I don't think the goal here is not to be villainizing.
No, I'm not saying you guys.
You know,
I'm not saying
well,
you guys.
certainly not
I'm saying
immigrants.
national
Geez,
conversation.
but illegal immigrants. I mean,
should it be
there is a push to normalize it, and that push is from the left over the last 10 years, and that has been changing language to undocumented immigrants. Sometimes they get rid of the word undocumented and they just use immigrants. I know you didn't mean to do that.
I didn't.
No, I know. But a lot of people do it on purpose because they're changing the language to normalize it because they want more. So you had Democrats, was it Chuck Schumer or which was the major Democrat? Biden also spoke about this, of changing language to help normalize it. If you changed a the name of a shoplifter to what do you want to call a shoplifter? A receiptless shopper.
Yeah.
Right? You might think that that's trying to kind of normalize it when that stigma should actually be there.
An undocumented shopper. There we go.
How do you think the naturalization process should function? Should it be easier or harder than it is right now?
About the same.
So we
Shouldn't be
shouldn't
easy to be an
change the
American
immigration
citizen.
process right now. It's not a broken system.
No, I'm not saying there can't be.
You're saying
improvements
right
made.
now, like okay, million per year. I think we're okay with that.
And more on visas. and
800
green
to
cards.
1.2 million per
So
year.
do you believe in a cap on how many immigrants should be naturalized per year?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I would say so. I think
Why? Why? I don't. That doesn't make sense to me because being American isn't an ethnicity.
We can't
it's a
sustain.
civic
We
nation.
can't
Like,
sustain the population of the world, and the majority of the world is impoverished. If that was a reason to come to the United States, and we just let unfettered access to the world, and we let every person who wanted to come here, the entire world would be American. We can't sustain that, right? It's a problem.
I mean, using that logic, and I'm going to bear with me here, using that logic, hey, we import 50 million people over the next 4 years, let's say. We imported like 12 million under Biden. Let's say 50 million. You think that the United States would be able to handle that no problem? All at a net negative in taxpayer
no,
dollars?
because we
You
live
think
we already live in a system that has a lot. Yes, that's what I'm.
reasonable control is reasonable, and you have to grow when you need it, right? If there's need for a bunch of low-wage work, excellent. You know, maybe increase those numbers. You vary by demand.
You mentioned earlier, World War I, a bunch of people were brought in from Mexico to do a lot of labor while soldiers were fighting in World War I. I mean, that's nothing new.
was me that talked
No, you did. You just mentioned how there have been programs to bring labor into the country.
Of course, that's incredibly
No,
reasonable.
I'm just adding that.
No,
sorry,
yeah.
Anecdote.
No. I mean, that's incredibly reasonable. You add when there is a need for it. That's excellent. And you allow people to come legally,
Who decides
and
if we
you
have a
punish people for coming illegally, so you don't encourage more illegal immigration, which has the consequence
How do you
of.
decide whether
of
or
the-
not we have a need for immigration? I don't like.
It's not my job to figure that
I
out.
know,
They
but-
can figure out what the job market needs. In fact, ADP tracks data for jobs. They probably have a good answer for that.
Okay, but if go ahead.
I mean, I just think that advocating for the absolute. Hey, Nico, are we good on the framing? The absolute horrific reality that we saw over the last 4 years. You're saying almost by fighting this hard against this, saying, hey, you know what? That's cool next time. And guess what? I'm not going to do anything to enforce the law
That's- okay,
again.
to be clear-
and
to be
for
clear.
for me, we all knew that this would be the position from the left.
I'm not on the left. Let me clarify.
This is like the
something,
most radical
I'm
left
not
position
saying-
we've ever had in American history. Is just open borders, no consequences for illegal immigrants.
Let me clarify something. I'm not saying that we shouldn't find a way to decrease illegal immigration, but that doesn't mean that the solution is to mass
Enforce the laws?
That does not mean that the solution is to mass deport people who have been living here for decades. Those people are just as American
That's an incentive
as
to
you or
come
me.
here illegally, right? If you
Yeah,
say,
you're rewarding them
you've
for
been
coming
here for
illegally.
10 years, you can be an American citizen.
Okay, but the reality
then more
is,
people are
if
just
they,
going
if
to come
they
and try to
have
survive for
lives
10
that they
years.
have built here in this country, supporting American values, why does that piece of paper dictate
Because they
them being
violated the
American?
law. Their first action entering the country was blatantly
Okay,
disregarding
By
and
the way, the
disrespecting
evidence to
laws.
suggest that enforcing the laws works is the current 94% reduction in illegal immigration. They're not coming here because we're enforcing laws.
They're
understand
not
that?
coming here because of
Because
the
they're enforcing
Trump
laws.
If you want to call it that, sure.
Wait, no, tell me why they're not coming here.
These aren't laws Trump
They're
made
not
either.
coming here because the Trump administration. If you want to say that it's an enforcement of laws, then go right ahead. But the Trump administration is inherently a detractor for immigration.
Definitionally, they're breaking the law when they come in.
Okay, you're.
And, they're,
yes,
and,
I'm
and
not
at that
disagreeing
point, they're
with
criminals.
How does that lead to let's deport 20 million people? That's such a crazy jump to go and
No,
say.
it's incredibly reasonable. The
Because
crazy
why-
position is saying,
You guys disagree.
no, it's fine. That's the point of this. It's fine. It's fine. It's
It's a
fine.
crazy-
We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to disagree.
It's a crazy jump especially if they commit violent crimes in the United States. If an illegal immigrant commits a violent crime in the United States, I think it's far better for that person to go through our criminal justice system, which is admittedly broken as is, than it is for us to just send them back.
Vetting
to
them
their
from the beginning, so there was no violent crime committed against a U.S. citizen.
But you're not
That
saying
policy
finding
seems
them-
crazy.
You're not saying finding them from the
You're
beginning.
saying
You're saying
wait till they
deport
commit a
20 million
violent crime and then do something.
And why should we house them in our prisons? Why wouldn't we just deport them and let their government deal with them?
So you agree with sending violent criminals or whatever the thing is to El Salvador?
Back to their home country. Yeah.
Really
Or
quick.
in
What about the Americans?
What about the American citizens?
to
Yeah.
prison. There are citizens. They should go to prison. We should house them in
Marco
prison.
Rubio saying American citizens might be sent to El Salvador as well.
I don't know what you're talking about. El Salvador.
It was in the meeting
We're
with.
talking about
what's-
Guantanamo Bay.
I'm sorry.
No. In
There
El
was
Salvador,
a meeting with what's his name? Bukele.
Bukele
Bukele, thank
has
you.
invited the American government to send their criminals to
Including
their
American
their big inhumane prison that they got going over there.
Do
And
you
if
mind,
I
do you mind-
recommend
do
you
you mind
research
if I
that
clarify your position for the audience before we end this?
Sure.
We got to get out of here. He's getting a flight, so we got to go.
Can I clarify
Of course
my
you can.
position
Can I do this first?
Yeah, go for it.
Or actually,
Sorry,
go. No.
Ladies first.
Thanks, guys. I was just gonna say, from all of our discussions, we disagree just policy-wise. I don't think people who have been here for 30, 20, 10 plus years should be sent back when they've established a life here, and that's just something we disagree on. That's just a difference of opinion, and I don't think that's going to be solved here. But I will say, anyone who's mad about illegal immigrants being here should be just as mad at the fucking CEOs who are leeching off them and not hiring American workers instead because they can exploit them.
Correct.
You should be just as mad at both groups of people, and you should be just as mad at both fucking parties in Washington who let these CEOs fucking exploit them without doing dog shit about it.
Well, our party is doing something about it.
Yeah, we're doing something about it. We're receiving pushback right now.
Elon Musk, who lays off American workers to hire H-1B visa workers who he can exploit and deport if they
going
complain
around.
about
Right-wing
something.
You can't exploit H-1B visa workers. They
Yes,
are
you
required
can. You
to be
can
paid
deport.
the same as American workers.
You can deport them if they complain against your company. Your boss is in charge of that.
The exploitation is not the same for sure,
It's
but I
definitely
agree
not
that
the
you can
same.
exploit them. I
It's
think so
definitely not the same.
But not in the same way she's
because
talking
they're like largely married to that company as well that they're coming in for. So fair point. I don't know why we're bringing that up with this, but that's okay. I see your
it's not
point.
like they're
you
paying
mentioned
them
this
well.
administration, and I
think
said
that-
the real president right now does the same thing with H-1B visas.
I think that it's to not even close to the same extent that's going on, but when it comes down to your argument of just being just as pissed off at those really evil CEOs, I don't think that is a controversial view. I think that's fair. This guy, I don't know about this guy right here, man. So let's clarify. I'm gonna let you defend your position. I'm gonna clarify it. We have like 5. Hey, you were awesome. Thanks for your time. Hang out as well. You don't need to leave. If she has any thoughts, I don't know. But there you go. Yeah, you can protest us. Cam, let me know if I'm being unfair here. I'm going to try to follow his position over this conversation, but I'm going to say, okay, it's we can't mass deport because it's not nice to put them in a facility, or whatever word you want to use, put them in a facility to deport them. So one, it's not possible was the argument, but then there became it's a moral kind of position. And then you also support, essentially, you never answered, I don't believe, punishing people coming into the country uninvited, illegally, only if they commit a violent crime against, or a crime against an American citizen, which seems like that could be stopped by vetting them at the border. Okay. So defend your position.
Let me clarify.
Am I being unfair, or is that a fair follow?
I think you're unfairly characterizing, and maybe you haven't understood what my position is. I believe in the American nation. I believe in American citizens, and I also believe in those who wish to be American citizens or those who wish to be a part of the American nation. I think that there is a difference between being a U.S. citizen and being a part of the American nation. If somebody breaks the law by coming into this country illegally,
Hold on, just
which does
say what I got wrong. That would be easier instead of
Okay,
the speech.
yes.
No offense.
Okay. I believe that it is
What was I wrong
inhumane to deport 20 million people. There's no humane way to do it.
Okay, that's what I said about your position.
And if someone commits a crime in this country, they should, regardless of what country they are a citizen of, they should be tried within the U.S. system. They should not be tried.
So far, I haven't gotten anything wrong about your position.
Well, where's the radicalness? Like, where are you calling me a radical there? Like, that's something that
What's
I've
the
never been
position that-
characterized as.
That is a radical position by definition, absolutely, when it comes to no punishment for
I'm not-
entering the
that's-
country illegally. So you're saying unvetted mass migration,
I'm not saying
totally
unvetted.
fine.
I'm saying there's a difference between.
That's what illegal
There's a
immigration
difference
is.
between controlling illegal immigration and
No.
deporting
I'm sorry,
20 million people. There's a difference.
It's my fault for not clarifying. Illegal immigration is just you don't know who these people are. They're not applying to come into the country. You don't know who they are. And you have so many coming from Venezuela. Their government doesn't even work with us when it comes to figuring out who
But
these
why
people
are they coming here from Venezuela?
Yeah, I understand that there's a bunch of problems. We can
Yeah,
nation
there's
build.
a
That's
lot.
great, but that doesn't mean that
So
we
you're
need to
for
take in
nation building?
that. No. You can nation build. I just want to get the border under control.
Well, socialist policies have led to a lot of the problems in Venezuela. It's a
Yes,
it's a shithole.
I
agree with you,
I
but that doesn't
completely
mean we have
agree
to
with
take them
that.
in.
Overthrowing democratically
but we don't have to take them in
elected
because of
people
that.
who tend to be on the left in these countries. Sorry, we're getting into geopolitics.
No,
and
it's totally fine.
completely
It's totally fine. You guys,
It's nice to meet
give me
you.
a nice handshake. That was fun. Really appreciate you both.